Hey everyone, Talking Tommy coming at you from Halifax, West Yorkshire, as per usual. Something a little bit different on this video. I thought it'd be good to do some beginner's guides. It was suggested to me by one of my subscribers, Wild Camping Oz. So, little shout out to you there. So he came up with the idea of some kind of beginner's guides, and I thought it was a good idea. I know most people in the community are already well averse to this sort of thing, so you know it's not going to interest everyone, but certainly I think it's important to document and go over some more grounds, so that we can all, so any sort of like newcomers to the hobby can, see how some of us veterans do things. So yeah, and I think in terms of pipes and tobacco, packing techniques, things like that, we all kind of have our own sort of take on it. It's a little bit like tying shoelaces. Yeah, there's standard ways of doing it, but some people do things a little bit differently, so, or at least I do. So yeah, so that was the basic premise. So he also wanted to know some good suggestions for budget pipes. So you've got your corn cobs, which are a very economical pipe to buy. They smoke cleanly, they're low maintenance, you don't need to break them in like you would on some of the high-end pipes. You don't need to be as careful with them, they're pretty hard wearing. And if you treat them well, they will last you a long time as well. They're a bit more hard wearing than, say, a clay pipe or meerschaum. So yeah, so cobs are a good idea. Not everyone likes cobs. I think they smoke fine. Personally, for aesthetical reasons, I'm not that big a fan of them. But you do have other options if you're on the budget. You don't have to break the bank. My first ever pipe was an Italian basket pipe, which smokes fine. I've still got it. I don't smoke it as often as I used to, because that's more of an interest of preservation. I don't want it to get damaged, because it was the only pipe I smoked for the first 6 months or so of pipe smoking, so I've probably made all kinds of mistakes with that pipe. But yeah, it was just a basket pipe, nothing too special. But of course there are other options. It all depends how much money you're willing to spend. But these pipes, for instance, Molina's 9mm filter, this one, of course. This is just your standard sort of billiard, but you can get ones that don't accept filters if you prefer not to. But these you can get online for around about £30, sometimes less depending on the series of pipe you're buying. But yeah, Molina's Italian briar, or Italian made briar pipes, should I say. And they're pretty well crafted for the price, to be quite honest with you. So that's one example of a pipe you can buy on a budget. Here's another one. This is a Mr. Brog mortar. I had a Mr. Brog briar. No, it wasn't a briar, sorry, tell a lie. It was a pear wood pipe. It was a church warden, and that one broke. I literally took it out of the rack and the stem just fell to bits, and it was snapped inside the shank. And to be fair, I'd only paid £11 for it, so I just kind of laughed to myself, because Mr. Brog do have a little bit of a bad reputation on some of their cheaper pipes. But I think when it comes to pipe smoking, it pays to buy something a little bit more expensive. But that's just my opinion. I just think if you buy cheap, you're going to buy twice. Some pipes are reassuringly expensive, or not necessarily expensive, but you know, you might pay a little bit more, but it will last you a hell of a lot longer. But this one is a Mr. Brog mortar, which I got on eBay, brand new from Mr. Brog direct, for around about £35. So again, pretty cheap. Accepts a 9mm, but they have a whole range of pipes. You know, they do pear wood, they do mortar, they do briar, they do oak. So they have quite a range to fit all budgets. Excuse me. And finally, another good example of a budget pipe, in my opinion, is a falcon. This is the only falcon I currently own. It's a shillelagh stem. They're not the cheapest example of falcons, I grant you, but even so, they're still cheap. I mean, the stem itself cost about £20, and the bowl costs on top of that about £12, something like that, I think. So I ended up paying about just over £30 for this pipe. In fact, I didn't pay anything for this pipe, my dad bought it. But yeah, checking on mysmokingshop.co.uk, we do sell these relatively cheap. But yeah, I didn't actually pay anything for this. But yeah, you can get these pretty cheap. You can get ones that are less flashy. You can get just a straight stem, standard stem, and a bowl. You can buy them for about £27 for a full falcon, which, you know, is pretty cheap. It's pretty cheap in my opinion, and they will last you. They're pretty good workhorses. So those are some of your options when it comes to budget pipes, but it is all about how much you are willing to spend. Sometimes with cheaper pipes you are going to compromise on style as well, which is another point to make, is when selecting a pipe, cosmetic value plays a part, of course, but it's not that important, I don't think. I mean, it all depends what you're wanting from the pipe. A pipe should accompany your overall style, I think. So I think a billiard, you know, quite a long stem pipe, is good if you're quite a tall person, you know. It looks pretty good on you. Whereas if you're a bit shorter and a bit stockier, you might want to get something a bit more squat. You might want to get like a pot. Like this is a kind of pot shape, sort of bent or curved pot. You might want to get something smooth. You might want a smooth pipe, or, you know, like me, I tend to buy at the moment quite a few sort of sandblast or rusticated pipes because I'm just so rugged, you see. But yeah, you know, pipes I think can be made. They can be selected to fit in your overall style. You don't have to. You can buy whatever style you wish, because I'll be quite honest with you, the whole accessory thing for me personally is secondary to smoking ability, because smoking ability is what you're after. Those are the things to consider. Personally for me, you know, I think it is all part of a journey, it's all part of a hobby, and it's all part of the fun of the hobby. But I'm at a place now where I've worked out what it is I like and what I don't. And I prefer pipes with quite a shallow chamber. So you see this one, you know, it doesn't even reach my second knuckle. Same with falcons. Falcons have quite a shallow bowl. This one is probably one of my larger bowl ones, but I think it's quite a good pipe for ready rubbed. And also it has a tapered bowl on the inside, which means it's sort of like a V shape, and that means you know, you're not going to have as much wastage or dottle. You know, the flame burns down like that, so it gives you a nice clean burn. So those are my preferences anyway. So there are things to consider when selecting a pipe, but those are some examples of how being on a budget doesn't necessarily mean you only have to smoke cobs. So now going to go through some tobacco types with you and packing methods. For some of you this is going to be incredibly old hat, and I understand if you switch off, but for you newbies you might find this useful. So this video is going to be subject to some heavy edits, I think, so bear with me. I'm going to show you a little table I've prepared. Okay, so what I've got set up here is a little table with some tobacco. There's already rubbed, a flake, a lighter, which probably isn't that necessary at the moment, a pipe tool, and the pipes as you've seen them. So I'm going to take the Falcon away and just show you these two in these two. So first things first, we'll start with ready rubbed, and we're going to fill it into this Molina. So there's a number of ways you can pack ready rubbed tobacco, and you've probably heard quite a few of them before. We'll go through the two simplest ones I know. So you've probably heard terms like the Frank method, which I'm not going to show you because I have yet to make it work for me. And there's a few other methods like the cannonball method, which again I've yet to make it work for me. So once I do get it to work, I will share with you. But for now we're going to just cover the two most simplest ones for ready rubbed. First one being the old classic, the gravity fill, and that's where you just pretty much just sprinkle it in until it reaches the top of the chamber, and then just push down lightly with a finger or a tamper, and you push down with very gentle amount of pressure. Take some more tobacco, do the same, and then push it with a little bit more pressure than you used previously. And then take another bundle of tobacco, push it down with a lot more firmness and pressure. And there you go, you've packed a ball of tobacco. And that's ready to go. You're going to check the draw. You're going to make sure there's no more resistance than you would get if you were drinking a milkshake through a straw. No more, no less resistance than that. And that one is ready to go. I'm going to show you another method now, because that method, you know, it's all fine, you know, a lot of people use that method. I personally find I always end up with too much tobacco at the end of my smoke. I use a different method, and this is what I know as the spiral method, and I get a handful of tobacco like that and just rotate the pipe over the tobacco, and it packs itself. Take off any loose bits from the top, push it down, fill it a little bit more, and there you have it. Now you don't want to fill it so that it's right up to the very top. You want about a millimetre or so. That's because when you light this, the tobacco swells. When it swells, it burns the rim, and you don't want that. So check the draw. perfect, if I do say so myself. So that's ready rubbed. I'm now going to show you how I deal with flakes. Again, you will hear all kinds of different methods and all kinds of different phrases being knocked about, like cube cut and fold and stuff. I'm just going to show you the most simplest one, which is rubbing it out. So this is what flake tobacco looks like, in case you didn't know. They really are stunning looking things. Yeah. Look at that. So all you do is rub it out into your hand or onto your surface. Make sure it's a clean surface and just rub it out as fine as you like. I usually leave it a little bit chunkier, but I always take a little bit here, rub it out finer. And then just fill the pipe. Now these are of course just my haphazard methods. They are in no way set in stone. I'm not saying this is how you should do it, this is simply just how I do it. And finally, get the finer bits, put them on top like that, and that's going to be like your kindling. Test the draw. Perfect. Yep, and that's it. Simple as that. So thank you very much for watching. Sorry if this has been incredibly boring for some of you more experienced smokers, but that's it for now. I will be back with some more beginners guides where I'm going to talk about a few different packing methods, and I will also show you how I deal with plugs and coin cut, also known as roll cut or curly cut tobaccos. So thanks for watching, see you all again soon, cheers.